Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Halt! Right shoulder. Whoop.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Our first speaker is Ms. Stephanie Barna, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, performing the duties of Principal Deputy Undersecretary of Defense, Personnel and Readiness. Please welcome Ms. Barna.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorees, families, and friends, good afternoon and welcome to the 36th Annual Department of Defense Disability Award Ceremony. It is such a privilege to be with you today. With today's ceremony, the Department launches its celebration of October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Today, we will recognize and honor 18 individual service members and civilians with disabilities for their outstanding achievements that have demonstrably advanced the mission of the Department of Defense. And today, we will recognize and honor 5 DoD components for their exemplary practices in employing individuals with disabilities. Reflecting the significance of this event, we will be led in our celebration by none other than our Secretary of Defense. There is a veritable trove of information in the public domain about our Secretary. You can go online to read and learn. He's a brilliant physicist. He's authored theses and books on complex matters like quantum field theory and the behavior of subatomic particles. He has served as a professor and faculty chair at Harvard University, and over the course of his distinguished career, he has answered the nation's call by serving with and for 11 past Secretaries of Defense. In this administration alone, he has been nominated by President Obama and confirmed by the Senate to serve as the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, as the Deputy Secretary of Defense, and as our 25th Secretary. But what might not be readily gleaned from Wikipedia's recitation of our Secretary's many professional accomplishments is his sincere and abiding commitment to the Department's people, to you, to me, to our force of today, and to our force of the future. I was at a White House meeting only a few weeks ago when another participant turned to me and said, and I quote, "Secretary Carter has done more than any official of this administration to advance the diversity of our federal workforce." And they were right. Our Secretary of Defense deems our diversity to be our greatest source of strength, and he has evidenced unflagging determination to eliminate any barrier that might undermine that diversity. As I think you will glean from his message to us today, our Secretary of Defense walks the talk. I can think of no one better to lead us in this important celebration. Please know that Secretary Carter is able to be with us only for the duration of his remarks, and the press of business requires that he depart immediately after speaking with us. But let's make the most of the time that we have with him. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm welcome for our Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Ash Carter.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And Stephanie, thanks so much for that introduction. Above all, thanks for what you do here. She's one of my partners in this great enterprise. And as I look out here in this audience, I see so many others, DoD leaders, colleagues, and then we, of course, have our honorees and their family and their friends. Welcome. Welcome to this, which is the 36th Annual Department of Defense Disability Award Ceremony. 36. It's an honor to be with you today to recognize 18 outstanding service members and civilians for their service to our department, to our mission, to our nation. From budgets to logistics, management to intelligence and more, these men and women help defend our great country and make a better world for our children. To our honorees, you're exceedingly valuable members of our team. You make us smarter and stronger every day by what you do for our mission. You help to keep our nation and our people safe. And what nobler mission in life can there possibly be than that? I'm proud to have you in the DoD family, and I'm proud to call you colleagues. Let's give, first of all of our awardees a big round of applause. And as Stephanie said, this afternoon we're also celebrating 5 DoD components and military departments for exemplary practices in employing individuals with disabilities. Now, it was almost 30 years ago in 1987 that then Secretary Weinberger, and yes, I worked for him, made a pledge to increase the employment of individuals with significant disabilities to 2% across the Department of Defense. And while we still have work to do to meet that pledge, our honorees and all our components and military departments have made real progress in hiring and making our workplaces more accessible to those with disabilities. 4 of the component awards today recognize programs and practices that promote the hiring, the retention, and the advancement of individuals with disabilities. And we've added a new award this year to recognize achievements in ensuring accessible information and communication technology to every employee, which is obviously important in today's digital workplace. As we recognize these components and military departments, I want to commend the Air Force for aiming high, as their motto says, and winning for the 5th year in a row the Achievements in Employment of Individuals with Disabilities Award for Best Military Department. Way to go, Air Force. And I also want to acknowledge the great work by our other awardees, the Defense Finance and Accounting Office, Washington Headquarters Services, the National Security Agency, and the Missile Defense Agency. Let's give all of them a round of applause. Now, one thing Stephanie said was true, and that is that my first priority as Secretary of Defense is to our people, whether it's men and women in uniform, civilians. We have the best people in the world, and that's what makes ours the finest fighting force the world has ever known. We recognize, moreover, that the thing that matters most about each person, in turn, is what they can contribute to our great and noble mission. That's necessary. It's a necessary perspective in an all-volunteer force. We have to start from a position of inclusivity and not exclusivity, because we depend on the most qualified. And we can't rule anyone out of the pool from which we select the most qualified. So we need a department where everyone who can serve and wants to serve has a full and equal opportunity to do so. Anything less isn't just plain wrong, it's bad defense policy, and it puts our future strength at risk. We can't afford that at a time when our department is addressing 5 rapidly evolving and immediate major international challenges. We're countering the prospect of Russian aggression and coercion, especially in Europe. We're managing historic change in the Asia-Pacific, the single region of the world of greatest consequence to America's future. We're strengthening our deterrent and defense forces in the face of North Korea's continued nuclear and missile provocations. We're checking Iranian aggression and malign influence in the Gulf and protecting our friends and allies in the Middle East. And we're accelerating the certain defeat of ISIL in its parent tumor in Iraq and Syria and everywhere else it metastasizes around the world, and even as we protect our people here in the homeland. And we're preparing to contend, moreover, with an uncertain future, ensuring that we continue to be ready for challenges we may not anticipate today. To meet those challenges, today's and what lies in the future, we need to keep our military edge as sharp as possible. And our awardees today, these fine individuals and these departments and components, are doing just that. They're ensuring that any person who wants to serve, who wants to help us tackle those 5 challenges and help us seize the many bright opportunities before our nation, can do exactly that. As National Disability Employment Awareness Month begins, we're reminded of our commitment to live the values we defend, to make the Department of Defense more open and accessible to all who can make a contribution to our mission. So I encourage all DoD components and military departments to renew their commitment to increase the employment of individuals with disabilities. Together, we'll make our workplaces more accessible to all. We'll meet the 5 challenges we face, and we'll continue to keep America safe long into the future by harnessing the talents, the skills and perspectives of 100% of America's population. Thank you, and congratulations, awardees.
Thank you, Secretary Carter. It is now my further pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Clarence Johnson, who is the Director of the Office of Diversity Management and Equal Employment Opportunity. Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, and what a pleasure to be here on this lovely fall day as we honor DOD's finest. Thanks first to Secretary Carter for his leadership and commitment to ensuring equal opportunity, indeed, which is foundational to DOD diversity and inclusion. Thank you, Ms. Barna, for your leadership and support of diversity management and equal opportunity programs, and certainly thanks to all of you for sharing your time with us at this prestigious ceremony today. Secretary Carter's presence today should serve as a reminder that the Department recognizes the work you all do, and certainly the Department supports our efforts to increase opportunity for individuals with disabilities. Congratulations to today's awardees, to each of you, service members and civilians being honored today. Thank you for your service and for your lending your talents to DOD. I commend and congratulate the DOD components and the military department being honored today for their exemplary employment practices which help to shape a stronger DOD. Today I am proud to report on DOD's accomplishments in enhancing inclusion for individuals with disabilities in our workforce. You see, my office works very closely with the components and the military departments to nurture diversity and inclusion across the total force. To that end, we adjusted this year's awards criteria to enhance recognition of the proactive programs, policies, and practices you are implementing to affect change. And DOD is introducing a new fifth award recognizing exemplary achievement in ensuring accessible information and communications technology, I'll refer to as ICT, in the workplace. And actually, as the department keeps pace with new innovations in technology, my office will be increasing our focus on providing equal access to ICT. Now, while 5 components in a military department are being recognized for their achievements today, this year's results were as close as ever. And this demonstrates that everyone is improving and continuing to work toward a more diverse and inclusive DOD. And we can see this improvement in the 2015 DOD Annual Disability Employment Awareness Report. We call it the DAYS report, which contains the most recent trends and analysis. In fact, the DAYS report provides this analysis. In it, we see an overview of the current status of employment of individuals with disabilities within components, military departments, and indeed across DOD. That report traces and tracks our progress toward achieving the longstanding goal that we reaffirm today, and that is to increase the participation of those with significant disabilities in our workforce to 2%. The results highlighted in the report demonstrate the steadfast work of each component and each department toward achieving these benchmarks. In 2015, we continued to demonstrate strength in hiring and retaining veterans with disabilities, including our wounded warriors. The participation rate of individuals with targeted disabilities in the DOD civilian workforce remains steady at 0.076%. This stable participation rate of individuals with significant disabilities demonstrates that we are recruiting and retaining talented individuals with targeted disabilities in our workplace. However, the rate at which we are recruiting individuals with significant disabilities for permanent positions has decreased over the past years, and this is a trend that we must work to reverse in order to move from holding steady to actually growing our participation rate closer to attaining that 2% goal. The components are working exemplary efforts to do just that, and with this year's additional criteria and our new awards honoring achievements in ensuring accessible ICT, we are recognizing that essential work. For example, the Department of the Navy has informed us that they have made a great first step in ensuring accessible ICT for employees with disabilities. The Navy has formed a team that meets weekly to ensure that assistive technologies offered by the Computer Electronic Accommodations Program, the CAP program, are tested and approved for those who use the Navy Marine Corps intranet network. This team proactively works with CAP to ensure that the programs offer the most up-to-date products for Navy Marine Corps intranet users. And this past year, we worked with the components to strengthen the existing collaborative initiatives and to establish initiatives aimed at eliminating barriers that to recruitment, to retention, and to advancement of individuals with disabilities in our workplace. I'm very proud to say that this year DoD continues to be the largest and most committed stakeholder of the Workforce Recruitment Program, WRP. We hired 247 summer interns this past year, and as most of you know, the WRP is a federal-wide recruiting and referral program designed to connect federal employees and employers with qualified candidates with disabilities for temporary and permanent positions. Approximately 1,800 to 2,000 candidates are available to be hired each year. We're proud to say that Mr. Levine, the Acting Undersecretary of Defense for P&R, co-hosted with the Deputy Secretary of Labor this past July a WRP awards ceremony downtown. In fact, the attendance was so great by our senior-most leaders in the department, which reaffirmed the department's commitment to the WRP. At that awards ceremony this year, we recognized one WRP coordinator and component for exceptional participation in the program. The recipients of the awards were Eric Spanbauer and the Defense Logistics Agency, and through the efforts of Mr. Spanbauer and his team at DLA, they hired some 62 WRP interns this year, exceeding the assigned hiring authorizations by 112%. I again congratulate DLA's superb utilization of the WRP program. The WRP opens so many doors through use of the Schedule A non-competitive hiring authority, and we should keep directing our efforts and forces on ensuring that we use this excellent resource to bring more into the workforce. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency made exceptional use of Schedule A in using it to almost hire some 18% of its permanent workforce from Schedule A. 18% of its hires in 2015 were Schedule A. These are outstanding achievements, and I strongly encourage all DoD components in the military departments to continue to use Schedule A to increase permanent opportunities for individuals with disabilities at DoD. We also continue to provide support to all DoD components in addressing and eliminating the technological, architectural, programmatic, and other barriers to the full participation of individuals with disabilities. We are taking additional steps to ensure compliance at all levels with Sections 504 and 508 of the Rehabilitation Act by modernizing the DoD policy issuance on non-discrimination on the basis of disability. I thank you all for your engagement and your coordination in providing comments and responses to our updated issuance and to our policy initiatives. In closing, I would remark that diversity is the cornerstone of DoD's total force. Our service members and civilians serve in an array of vital positions around the globe. Let's continue to work together to strengthen our accomplishments and address our challenges in our endeavor to increase the representation of individuals with disabilities, particularly those with targeted disabilities, in these critical positions. It is now my pleasure to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker. He is Mr. Kirk M. Bauer, U.S. Army retired. As a disabled Vietnam decorated veteran and executive director of Disabled Sports USA for over 30 years, Kirk Bauer firmly believes that the military philosophy of leadership by example is the most effective way to inspire others to dream big and to achieve these goals. At his tender age, Kirk still leads an active sports life, participating with wounded warriors, youth, and others to participate in such sports as skiing, biking, hiking, golf, and other sports. As Disabled Sports USA's CEO since 1982, Kirk has taken a small, all-volunteer organization and made it the nation's largest sports and recreation organization for the physically disabled individuals. For his improvements and achievements, Kirk has been awarded a number of awards from the President of the United States. And in fact, he's been appointed to the Lifelong President's Council on Physical Fitness. There's more on Kirk in your program. Please welcome, indeed, a leader, Mr. Kirk M. Bauer.
Thank you, Director Johnson. Thank you, Secretary Carter and Assistant Secretary Barna, for the opportunity to be here today. I'm particularly honored to be speaking with the honorees, both the military service members and the civilian service members that have been awarded recognition today for your service. You're truly one of my heroes, and I really appreciate everything that you have done. And their families that are here today. When I was asked to speak here, I thought to myself, I'm a jock. We do sports. What has that got to do with the military necessarily? Although we do a lot of sports programs for wounded warfighters coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. But one thing I can offer you folks, and that is a little perspective on what's kind of gone on in the past. I know that the DoD has been providing this award for the last 36 years. It is the nation's largest employer, and it has made a commitment to encourage and recognize achievements of both agencies within DoD and the DoD employees with disabilities, including those wounded in combat, that have furthered the mission of DoD. And I think that's a very, very commendable leadership position to take, and something that I certainly applaud. But I want to go back 47 years when I was serving in Vietnam in the 9th Infantry Division as a non-commissioned officer. And during one night when we had set up an ambush, our unit, we were actually a company, but we were down to 52 guys because we'd been in the field for 3 weeks and had a lot of casualties during that time. And an MVA battalion of 400 basically walked into our position in the middle of the night. I happen to know all this because one of my squad members visited me in the hospital later on and explained the whole thing that happened afterwards. But all we knew is that basically all hell broke loose, and we were totally swarmed by enemy troops. It wasn't hand-to-hand, but I can tell you that it's about the closest thing to hand-to-hand that I ever want to get to. And we survived that night. I survived. I got hit by a grenade sometime during that battle, and thanks to the heroic efforts of a tremendously brave medic who crawled over in the middle of the night to tie a tourniquet on me, and literally within 30 minutes of the firing stopping, a medevac helicopter appeared in the middle of the night, turned on its lights. Now we knew, and I was awake watching this, we knew that the area was swarming with enemy troops, and yet they had the bravery and the courage to turn that light on and drop down to pick up 8 of us who were wounded that night. And I tell you, it was like a light out of heaven. And they took us out to a MASH unit, and some brave doctor saved my life. And when I got back from that and ended up at Laramie Letterman Hospital in San Francisco, you know, 6 operations, 7 months of rehab, a lot of pain and infections and doctor's appointments and what have you. So it wasn't a particularly enlightening time of my life. And I think to compound that, when we were mustered out, there were not a lot of services that are available today. There weren't programs that dealt with post-traumatic stress. There was no discussion about whether I was going to stay in the military with what I had learned or go. It was basically get medically discharged. And basically the programs that are here now because of the DOD did not exist, and a lot of the Vietnam veterans had to make it on their own. I do want to say, though, that one of the programs that did exist then and exists now is the VA Voc Rehab Program. And I think that's one of the best programs in the government, along with the GI Bill now. It enabled me to go back to school. It enabled me to get a degree, a law school degree from Boston University, and get my first break as working as an aide, a congressional aide on Capitol Hill. And I now encourage all veterans that go through our program, that qualify for that program, to go back to school to get your training, because it can be the key to success. I want to compare that to now. There's a world of difference of what is available to our warriors. And the very first is the medical care is the best in the world. The therapists and the doctors there have totally embraced sports as part of the rehabilitation, a key part of the rehabilitation. And of course, we think that is extremely important. I know it was important to me as I was going through rehab. They provide the adaptive equipment, whether they're advanced prosthetics or racing wheelchairs or hand cycles or whatever it takes, to enable the warriors to get involved in sports while they're in the hospital, and to help them transition back into active life when they get out of the hospital. And they have been very, very welcoming. The DOD has been very, very open to working with nonprofit groups like Disabled Sports USA and other groups, other fine groups, that are providing services, particularly sports services in the hospitals, to get them involved in sports. This is a world of difference from what I went through, and we now have the resources and the advanced technology to provide over 50 different sports to very, very extreme disabilities. They can get involved in those sports and be very, very active. I want to tell a little story, because I like to tell stories, and because it is about, for me, it is about sports, but it illustrates really the difference in what is going on now within the DOD that is so different than 47 years ago. I'm going to use the example of one of our mountain climbs. CJ mentioned that I do a little bit of mountain climbing. Well, I got pushed into the mountain climbing by these active warriors who said, if you're going to talk the game about sports, we want to see you do it, so we want you to go on these climbs. So we really picked the big climbs. These are the climbs of what they call the 7 summits. These are the tallest mountains in each of the continents of the world. And we successfully climbed Kilimanjaro in 2010. I think I was 62 then, I think it was. And in 2015, we attempted the climb of the tallest mountain in the world in South America, a 23,000-foot mountain called Aconcagua. And we assembled a team of severely wounded warriors for that climb, including a double leg amputee, another leg amputee like myself. I'm an above-knee amputee, and this captain was an amputee, and someone with severe traumatic brain injury, because we really wanted to show what these young people with disabilities are capable of doing with the right opportunity, the right adaptive equipment, and the right training. And that is what the DOD provides when they want to get transitioned back into employment and to active life. And the first warrior I want to talk about is Captain Dave Borden. And I'm going to be a little bit graphic here because I really want people to understand, and you've seen it, you know it, because you work here, but understand how far these young men and women have come after they've been injured. It's an amazing thing for me to see, and it inspires me every day. This Marine captain was serving in Iraq, and he was in a civilian. He was in a village with his unit, and a terrorist came up to him and right in front of him blew himself up. It resulted in Dave's arm being totally blown apart. His whole torso was blown open. His leg was blown off. His family was brought over to Germany, where he was taken because they didn't think he was going to live. Well, Captain Dave did live, and he started the long and arduous task and journey of getting back into health again, and was rehabbing at Walter Reed when I met him. And we got him involved in golf. He loved golf, so we got him involved in the golf programs. We got him involved in skiing, and he progressed tremendously. But he wanted to stay in the service. And this is how dramatic the difference is from 47 years ago. The military, the Marines, worked actively with him to keep him in, to provide him with the rehab that he needed to come back from that injury. And Dave ended up, Captain Dave, ended up serving 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan in combat with his above-knee prosthesis, carrying 85-pound sacks in the highlands after his injury. And it was because of the opportunity he was given and the way that the DOD worked with him that he was able to do that. So Dave was one of the candidates for this climb, and he actually emailed me from Afghanistan and said, I'm going to be missing one of your training camps. I hope I'm still being considered. I said, well, what are you doing right now, Dave? He says, well, right now I've just done 8 miles with an 85-pound pack in Afghanistan. And I said, Dave, I think you're ready for a climb of Aconcagua. So that was pretty much settled by then. The other candidate for this climb was a Lance Corporal, a Marine Lance Corporal by the name of Colton Carlson. And Colton had grown up in Colorado. He had hiked all of his life. Colorado has like 60 different 14,000-foot mountains. So one of the big things you do when you go to Colorado, if you like to climb, is you climb a couple of these 14,000-foot mountains. I've had the privilege of doing that, and it's a fantastic experience when you get to the top of one of these things. But so he had climbed all of his life with his father and his brother, and he loved it. And he ended up, he got hit by an IED in Afghanistan and ended up as a double leg amputee, very severely wounded, peripheral arterial damage, structure, orthopedic damage, muscular damage, in addition to the amputations, and he was in pretty bad shape. And the therapist came to me from Walter Reed and said, this guy really needs something that he's going to be working for, and he's heard about your climb, and he wants to talk to you. So I sat down with Colton, and he said, I'd like to try this. And I said, you've got to go through these training programs, and but we'll definitely consider you. So he, it gave him that little bit of spark. But Colton described to me, and these are his words. He described to me the first time that he had been in therapy for a number of months. He had tried his artificial legs on. He had walked, with support and with the therapist and between bars and what have you. But then the therapist said, all right, now we want you to walk from the physical therapy unit to Building 62. Building 62 is where they live, okay? It's about 150 yards on the campus at Walter Reed. And he said that in walking that 150 yards, he had to stop 6 times and sit down. He was exhausted. He was just totally exhausted. He got back to his room, and he took off his prostheses, and one of them had already broken down. There was blood in his socket. And he said it was the most depressing day of his entire life, because he said, is this what my life is going to be like? And so we said, okay, you want to take this challenge. It was a year-long training program, and Colton went through the training program. He did the Bataan Memorial Death March with us, which is the 26-mile hike in the desert, and climbs in the mountains. And he definitely proved that he was capable of being this candidate. So in 2015, just last year, we set out for Aconcagua in the Andes, And this mountain is so remote, it takes 3 days just to get into the base camp. And it's a 23,000-foot mountain, the tallest in the world outside of Asia. And we spent 2 weeks on that mountain, climbing up the mountain to get to the top. And we had, of course, very accomplished guides. We had a Himalayan Sherpa, we had a South American guide, we had an American guide who had done major, Everest and all the major mountains in the world. And of course, they're the ones that call, the guides call the shots. If you're not going to go any further, it's up to them to tell you that. Well, most of us made it up to 20,000 feet. And for various reasons, there was a big weather front coming in, and that literally can mean the difference of life and death. So they stopped me, they stopped Captain Borden. I think the comment the guide made to me is, "You're too old, you're too fat, and you're too slow." Okay, so that was the end of my hike, but it was the highest I've ever been. But it turns out there was one of our wounded warfighters left, and it was Colton Carlson, the double-leg amputee, the guy who was the most injured of all of us. And we sat down with Colton the night before, and we said, "Colton, you're the man. If we're going to have a success, we got to have one of us get to the top." He left at 4 o'clock in the morning the next morning with the Sherpa and the South American guide, and he did not get back until 11:17 the next night. Okay, he summited that 10 hours later. He summited that mountain, and I have a picture of him making tea at the top of the mountain. And he said he sat there and just like, "Wow, I've made it." And that is the kind of determination, but that's also the kind of talent that our wounded and others with disabilities have. And what I am so proud of is the fact that the DoD recognizes that. And I think that it's important for us to know that it's not just the target numbers. I know that you've set targets. I think that's commendable because it really gives you something to work for. But it's also recognizing that you are hiring people not just to meet a number, but you're hiring people because they bring with them their talents, their energy, their creativity, their commitment to making the DoD and this nation more efficient and a better place, and enabling the DoD to accomplish its mission in a cost-effective, efficient way. And that is really the real story that we're here today to celebrate. The people that are being honored today have made a contribution to both to preserve the safety of our nation's citizens, but to do it in a way that's more cost-effective and efficient, and therefore it's, saves money, and it saves us all a lot of expense that we would have had to pay if we were not in that situation. So I want to really recognize the DoD for that, and I want to recognize the honorees for their contributions. And I particularly want to recognize the fact that today the DoD now actively offers options to wounded warfighters to continue to serve in the military, like David Borden, assessing their training, their talents, and their capabilities, and assigning them to worthwhile duties, including returning to the theater of war, if that is their desire and there's a need to use their talents there. And DoD is doing all the right things to make this a reality, and they're not just talk. They're actively identifying, recruiting, and hiring people with disabilities. They're identifying those already employed at DoD. They're providing reasonable accommodations, especially in the information technology sector that is growing more important each day. This enables the workers to perform their duties, and it is also a time for us to recognize their accomplishments here today. I also want to say that, for those who decide to transition out of the military, there is tremendous support that follows them into the civilian sector. And Colton Carlson is a perfect example. He medically discharged, but he is now back in school. He's studying to be an engineer, again, with the support of the VA and the DoD. He wants to design the next advanced prosthetic. He's gotten married, and he celebrated his first child's birth recently. And that is success. And that is success with Dave, that is success with Colton, and that is because of the changed attitude that the Department of the Defense and of the federal government has in the capabilities of people with disabilities and the willingness to put the resources behind their talk so that those individuals can progress and contribute back to society. So my hat's off to the DOD. My hat's off to the honorees today for your accomplishments. You are my heroes, and we want you to continue to provide that example for all of us to follow. And I want to thank all of you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. At this time, we ask Ms. Barna to present the individual and component awards. Ms. Barna, please take your place at the front of the stage. Ms. Barna will first present awards to 18 outstanding employees and service members of the Department of Defense. Since 1981, the individual awards have honored outstanding DoD employees with disabilities. Since 2010, the individual awards have also honored outstanding service members with disabilities. Each of the 18 individual award recipients were selected by his or her component from among thousands of DoD employees and service members worldwide. The first award is presented to Mr. Joseph Adalik of the Department of the Army. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Ms. Gwendolyn D. Felipe, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army, Civilian Personnel. Mr. Adalik is considered a subject matter expert on maintenance, supply, and standard Army retail supply system level 1 by his peers and personnel from other agencies. From April 2011 to May 2012, he saved ARSouth and customer commands over $400,000. He did this through his technical expertise, leadership skills, and ingenuity. Congratulations, Mr. Adalik. The next award is presented to Ms. Deborah Warwick of the Department of the Army. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Ms. Gwendolyn D. Felipe. Ms. Warwick is recognized today for her exemplary service as the Budget Analyst, Administration and Resources Branch, United States Army Force Management Support Agency. Ms. Warwick's outstanding analytical skills enhance the day-to-day budgetary tracking and management within the agency. Her attention to detail directly enabled the agency's management of limited budgetary resources in an austere environment over the last 4 years. Congratulations, Mrs. Warwick. The next award is presented to Scott Sazin of the Department of the Army. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Ms. Gwendolyn D. Felipe. Mr. Sazin has been working at the Surveys, Mapping, and GIS section of the Geotechnical Sciences and Engineering branch for more than 11 years. Mr. Sazin started with the Omaha District under the Workforce Recruitment Program. Mr. Sazin is known for his geospatial expertise. His experience includes projects on unexploded ordnance, flood control, military construction, and many others. He has taken on a team lead role in several of these projects, managing funding and scheduling of team members. Congratulations, Mr. Sazin. The next award is presented to Mr. Alec Forsman of the Department of the Navy. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. Franklin Parker. Mr. Forsman leads a team that designs, develops, operates, and maintains post-processing optical optical and photogrammetric systems and provides quality data to Navy test programs. He is nationally recognized flight test photogrammetry expert for weapons separations, ship suitability, ballistics, and mishap reconstruction. He co-authored a book and researched improvements to photogrammetric target acquisition, tracking, and analysis funded by the Naval Innovative Research and Engineering Program. Congratulations, Mr. Forsman. The next award is presented to Staff Sergeant Adam Jonathan LeBlanc of the United States Marine Corps. Unfortunately, Staff Sergeant LeBlanc is unable to join us today. Here to accept the award on his behalf is Sergeant Major Edwards Parsons. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. Franklin Parker, Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. Staff Sergeant LeBlanc enlisted as an infantryman in 2000. He's had many accomplishments during his tenure, including a deployment to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, in support of Operations Enduring Freedom in 2002. In 2003, he was deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. He joined the 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines as a sniper in support of Operation Phantom Fury to secure Fallujah in 2004. Congratulations, Staff Sergeant LeBlanc. The next award is presented to Ms. Christina Patt of the Department of the Navy. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. Franklin Parker. Ms. Patt is an inventory management specialist with the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Panama City, Florida. As a site subject matter expert for the General Services Administration Global Supply Program, she worked with GSA to accomplish an overhaul the program by encouraging their online program to interface with local internal systems, resulting in savings. She has served on quality process teams and has received a variety of awards over the course of her career. Congratulations, Ms. Patt. The next award is presented to Technical Sergeant Jason Caswell of the Department of the Air Force. Unfortunately, Technical Sergeant Caswell is unable to join us today. Mr. Timothy Bridges, Assistant Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics, Engineering, and Force Protection, is accepting the award on his behalf. Technical Sergeant Caswell is vital to accomplishing the aircraft maintenance mission at Little Rock Air Force Base. In his primary job, Technical Sergeant Caswell utilized an Air Force-wide process improvement initiative in order to minimize the aircraft debrief time for C-130J aircrew members. This enabled aircrew to notify maintainers of serious mechanical faults during flight, as well as operational checks performed to accurately describe the aircraft airworthy condition. Congratulations, Technical Sergeant Caswell. The next award is presented to Mr. Robert Schenk of the Department of the Air Force. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Lieutenant Colonel Gregory C. Durham, Commander, 374th Logistics Readiness Squadron. Mr. Schenk serves as an Installation Deployment Officer and Chief of Plans and Integration. Mr. Schenk directs all contingency, emergency, and expeditionary deployments and receptions for the installation while ensuring legal compliance to meet U.S. Pacific Command interagency needs. Mr. Schenk was crucial during Exercise Vigilant Ace, where he led his team in the deployment of 12 C-130 aircraft generating 186 sorties, ultimately enabling numerous combat training scenarios between the U.S. and Republic of South Korean forces. Congratulations, Mr. Schenk. The next award is presented to Mr. Hiromi Allen of the Army and Air Force Exchange Service. Unfortunately, Ms. Allen is unable to join us today. Mr. Mike Imler, Deputy Director for the Army and Air Force Exchange Service, will be accepting the award on her behalf. Ms. Allen has been working with the Army and Air Force Exchange Service since 2005. In 2011, she was selected to fill the shift supervisor position in the Softlines Department. She quickly reorganized the department by setting clear goals for her associates, allowing her crew to take ownership of their areas, and helping her crew develop personally and professionally. Ms. Allen often willingly switches her schedule to assist with unforeseen issues and has been honored with accolades, including Employee of the Month and Volunteer of the Quarter. Congratulations, Ms. Allen. The next award is presented to Kevin Truong of the Defense Contract Audit Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Ms. Maureen Higgins, Assistant Director, Human Capital and Resource Management, Defense Contract Audit Agency. Mr. Truong is a Senior Auditor with the New York Branch Office. Mr. Truong has excelled as an auditor at the New York office. He has been lead auditor in various complex incurred cost audits and other assignments. In 2008, audit conducted by Mr. Truong resulted in $480,000 in question costs, and a 2009 audit resulted in question costs of $1.1 million. Congratulations, Mr. Truong. The next award is presented to Jacqueline Spiller of the Defense Commissary Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. Michael Dowling, Deputy Director and Chief Operating Officer, Defense Commissary Agency. Ms. Spiller joined the Defense Commissary Agency working for the Richards-Gaubauer Commissary located in Missouri in 2012. Prior to joining the Defense Commissary Agency, Ms. Spiller attended Southern Illinois University Carbondale and served as a secretary for Red Cross activities and part of the administrative support staff of the United Way. Ms. Spiller is the proud mother of 2 boys. Ms. Spiller serves as an outstanding store associate. Congratulations, Ms. Spiller. The next award is presented to Mr. Eric James E.J. Beliveau of the Defense Contract Management Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Lieutenant General Wendy Mazzio, Director of the Defense Contract Management Agency. Mr. Beliveau is a Vietnam veteran with the U.S. Marines. He is proud of his service at DCMA as part of an effort to support the warfighter. Mr. Beliveau has performed oversight for over $1 billion in software development acquisitions at various times. These programs include the management of distributed software teams from the East Coast to the West Coast. These are highly visible programs with high risks to software development. 3 of the programs relate to satellite constellations, and 2 of the programs regard missile defense. Congratulations, Mr. Beliveau. The next award is presented to Mr. Kenneth Kramer of the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. David E. McDermott, Deputy Director for Operations. Mr. Kramer's outstanding efforts have directly contributed to the agency's ability to achieve and sustain audit readiness. He is the organization's subject matter expert on the budget execution process. Mr. Kramer finds innovative solutions to complex problems. For instance, he developed an automated consolidated attestation standard 801 checklist, saving the agency both time and money while reducing chances of human error. The automated checklist has greatly reduced the number of hours associated with completing the requirements of the 801 review. Congratulations, Mr. Kramer. The next award is presented to Major Timothy Tatum of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Ms. Suzanne White, Chief of Staff, DIA. Major Tatum, an outstanding Army officer, has served his country for over 17 years. For the past year, he has served as a member of the Defense Intelligence Agency's Defense Combating Terrorism Center Support Division. As the Defense Combating Terrorism Center lead for DIA's transition from the Department of Defense Intelligence Information System to the Common Operating Environment domain, Major Tatum took on the critical and challenging job of moving DCTC personnel to the new Intelligence Community Information Technology Enterprise, compliant initiative enacted by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Congratulations, Major Tatum. The next award is presented to Mr. Frank Moses of the Defense Logistics Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. Brad Bunn, DLA Director of Human Resources. Mr. Moses is a task management tracker expert for human resources. He analyzes all J1 taskers and distributes them to the appropriate offices in a timely manner. Mr. Moses is the primary troubleshooter to address any TMT system issues. He ensures that all policy and issuant taskers are in the proper format, writing in accordance with the DLA manual. Mr. Moses is a critical part of the team that ensures J1 enjoys a fine reputation with DLA for suspense management and outstanding staff work. Congratulations, Mr. Moses. The next award is presented to Terry McCurry of the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. Scott Levesque, Deputy Director, J9CXQ, Defense Threat Reduction Agency. Mr. McCurry serves in the Special Programs Office at the Assistant Network Operations Center Manager and Property Book Custodian for the U.S. Special Operations Command's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Support Program. Mr. McCurry is leading efforts to implement 4 security upgrades of the dynamic picture of the operating environment, a $20 million cloud-based research and development system supporting deliberate and operational planning. Mr. McCurry's efforts driving security upgrades resulted in no loss of connectivity to more than 800 users worldwide. Congratulations, Mr. McCurry. The next award is presented to Mr. Jeremy Tuck of the Missile Defense Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Mr. John James, Executive Director of MDA. Mr. Tuck joined the Missile Defense Agency in April 2012 through the Missile Defense Civilian Development Program. Mr. Tuck is a system and software engineer in the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Software Division under the Chief Engineer. His efforts in tracking the potential challenges have increased his team's situational awareness, resulting in a team-wide increase in productivity and improved working relationships. This supports the MDA core value of teamwork as well as the MDA goal of a team approach for agency operations. Congratulations, Mr. Tuck. The next award is presented to Mr. Brent Hare of the National Security Agency. Presenting the award with Ms. Barna is Admiral Michael Rogers. Mr. Hare served at the National Security Agency as a Mission Watch Officer from 2014 to January of 2016. During his time as a MWO, he contributed to the countless successful computer network exploitation operations within the Tailored Access Operations Organization. As a watch team lead, Mr. Hare trained his own team and then assisted with training at least 2 other teams, rotating duties among team members so that each person had an opportunity to diversify his or her skills and gain experience while encouraging knowledge sharing. Congratulations, Mr. Hare. Ms. Barna will now present the annual Secretary of Defense awards to 5 DoD components in recognition of their exemplary practices in employing individuals with disabilities. 4 awards recognize achievements in programs and practices promoting hiring, retention, and advancement of individuals with disabilities. The new 5th award honors 1 DoD component for achievements in ensuring accessible information and communication technology in the workplace. This year, the award for Best Military Department for 2016 is presented to the Department of the Air Force. To accept the award is Mr. Gabe Camarillo, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, and Lieutenant General Gina Grosso, Deputy Chief of Staff for Manpower Personnel and Services, Department of the Air Force. This marks the 5th consecutive year in which the Department of the Air Force has won this award. The Department of the Air Force achieved impressive outcomes related to the employment of individuals with targeted disabilities, with the highest participation rate and new permanent higher percentage of military departments. To facilitate achievement of these positive employment outcomes, the Department of the Air Force adopted many effective strategies, including recruiting widely for positions in all pay plans, occupations, and levels. Effectively using Schedule A accepted hiring authority, resurveying its workforce OPM SF-256, Self-Identification of Disability Status Codes, adopting a written policy on reasonable accommodations for qualified applicants and employees with disabilities, and providing appropriate training to senior leadership and managers. Congratulations. The recipient of the award for the Best Mid-Size Component for 2016 is the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. Here to accept the award is Mr. David McDermott, Deputy Director for Operations. This is the 3rd consecutive year that the Defense Finance and Accounting Service has won the Best Mid-Size Component Award. For the 2nd consecutive year, DFAS exceeded DoD's longstanding goal that 2% of its workforce be individuals with targeted significant disabilities, with a participation rate of 2.15%. DFAS led all mid-sized components in the percentage of permanent hires comprised of individuals with targeted disabilities. In addition to demonstrating positive employment outcomes, DFAS was the only mid-sized component to submit documentation of administrative mechanism or centralized source of expertise for establishing a comprehensive reasonable accommodation programs. The recipient of the award for the Best Small Size Component for 2016 is the Department of Defense Washington Headquarters Services. Here to accept the award is Ms. Barbara Westgate, Director of WHS. WHS performed well in most statistical categories and was the lead small-size component in the participation rate for individuals with targeted disabilities. WHS earned points for demonstrating it had resurveyed its workforce's OPM SF-256 self-identification of disability status codes and submitting documentation of an administrative mechanism or centralized source of expertise for establishing a comprehensive, reasonable accommodations. Congratulations. The recipient of the award for Best Intelligence Component for 2016 is National Security Agency. Here to accept the award is Admiral Michael Rogers. This is the third consecutive year NSA has won Best Intelligence Component award. NSA achieved the top score among intelligence components in the participation rate and new permanent hire percentage of individuals with targeted disabilities. NSA submitted documentation of a comprehensive operational plan for funding supplies, equipment, and services critical to provide reasonable accommodations. Congratulations. The recipient of the award for achievement in ensuring accessible information and communication technology in the workplace is the Missile Defense Agency. Here to accept the award is Mr. John James, Executive Director of MDA. MDA is recognized for its exemplary efforts to implement a program that ensures that its employees with disabilities have equal access to information and communication technology. MDA has taken proactive steps to allocate resources to fund a full Section 508 coordinator position. MDA established a program to ensure adherence to federal accessibility standards and usability guidelines. This model has proven successful in ensuring accessible information and communication technology for MDA employees with disabilities. Congratulations. Thank you, Ms. Barna. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce the Director of Disability Programs, Mr. Randy Cooper.
Good afternoon. Let's give everyone another round of applause. We'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you for coming to our ceremony. I hope you've enjoyed our program. We'd like to thank the Office of Diversity Management and Equal Opportunity, our disability team, the entire Department of Defense, our planning committee, and all of our volunteers today. Thank all of you for your support. Thank you. We'd like to thank the Secretary, Secretary Carter, Undersecretary Barna, Mr. Bauer for those insightful remarks, and thank you for your commitment of time. Thank you for being here with us. I would like to thank Undersecretary Barna for her demonstrated commitment to always support our programs here at the Department of Defense. Let's give her a round of applause. Mr. Johnson and all of the Department of Defense leadership, thank you for being here with us, and thank you for advancing opportunity for individuals with disabilities throughout our programs. And award recipients, congratulations to all of you, and thank you. And thank you for demonstrating that we, individuals with disabilities, carry out the Department of Defense mission. Thank you. This concludes the 36th Annual Disability Award Ceremony. Thank you.